This is a $100 phone, and this is a $1,000 phone. Which one takes better pictures? Okay, so we kinda know which one's gonna take better quality photos, but just for fun, I wanted to see how much you can get out of a $100 phone like the blue Grand XL versus something with a higher price tag like the iPhone X. Especially if camera isn't your main concern in a phone, as long as it takes decent pictures and videos, then yeah, why not spend only $100 on that phone? I've never really compared such different price points in a phone. Like, I'm really not expecting much for this phone. We might get some really potato looking pictures. And just looking at the specs real quick, the blue Grand XL has a rear 8 megapixel camera, no optical image stabilization, selfie camera is 5 megapixels, and 1080p video. And then with the iPhone X, we got that dual 12 megapixel camera, aperture of 1.8 and 2.4 on the telephoto lens, optical image stabilization on both lenses, a 7 megapixel front facing camera, 4K video, and even 1080p slow-mo at 240 frames per second. So after looking at those camera specs, I don't have too many high hopes for this guy. But I don't know, I mean, it might surprise us. Maybe it doesn't fall too far behind to the iPhone X, but I guess we gotta go take some pictures and videos and see how they do side by side. So taking a look at this first photo, this nice close-up shot of this pine tree needle bush thing. I mean, they both actually did a really good job. Like, the biggest difference I see is differences in color. The iPhone's picture is definitely brighter, and I do like the colors on there more, but for a $100 phone, this photo is not bad. I will say we do lose details in the shadows. It's definitely darker and you don't see as much detail. But if we zoom in the middle of the photo, some of the little pine needle leaves actually look like they have more detail than the iPhone X's picture. The iPhone does give you a slightly greater depth of field. And like I said before, the colors are definitely more pleasing. Like the green on the little leaves definitely looks better. But I'm very pleased with both photos here. So this next photo is purely a color test. I took a picture of some apples to see how it handles those reds and greens and yellows. And my goodness, that difference is definitely there. I don't think I want to eat the apples from the blue Grand XL. Like, those apples look kind of sick or something. They're very blue looking. And I don't want to make it seem like I'm just bashing on a cheaper phone, because obviously a $100 smartphone camera is not going to be as good as a $1,000 smartphone camera. But it is really cool to see the differences like side by side. In this particular photo, the difference is extreme. So yeah, not only that color, but also everything is just slightly out of focus on the blue Grand XL. It just kind of seems blurry. We also start to see some grain in some areas. In terms of colors, I feel like this is a good representation of what we're gonna see throughout the rest of the photos, but let's move on and see the next one. So here's a photo of me, and once again, the biggest difference that just shouts at me is that huge difference in color. You can see the HDR mode on iPhone X really kicked in there, and you see that nice blue in the sky and the green in the trees. On the blue Grand XL, definitely see some troubles in exposure. The highlights are way blown out. The shadows are losing detail again. And specifically on my hair in the front here, it just seems out of focus on the Grand XL. On the iPhone X, we see those strands clearly. And even though my skin is a bit washed out, I almost prefer it because I'm looking pretty orange on the iPhone X. But the colors of everything else just look so much better on the iPhone X. So I guess that's a benefit of paying more, but we gotta remember that there's a lot of phones out there that don't cost $1,000 that have pretty good cameras, like the OnePlus 5T is around $500. And that takes some pretty good pictures. I do want to throw in that we get that portrait mode on the iPhone, giving us that DSLR look. It did do a little bit of a funky job around my hair, but overall, that's something that you don't get with a $100 phone. But please don't spend $1,000 on a phone just because you want portrait mode, because portrait mode is not worth $1,000. This next photo I took on a rainy day, and it's kind of hard to tell differences between smartphone camera pictures on overcast days. And honestly, both look pretty good here. Like, if you're not looking at the iPhone X's picture, I feel like some people will even prefer it even more. But really, when you zoom into things, you clearly get more detail on the iPhone's picture. We do have a slightly wider lens on the iPhone, so you get more in the photo. They're both pretty well exposed. The highlights are slightly brighter on the blue Grand XL, and everything's a little more balanced on the iPhone's picture. But other than that, for what it is, I think both photos look pretty decent. Now, this photo is pretty familiar because I posted the iPhone X one last week on Instagram. And yeah, I did edit it. I edit all my Instagram pictures. Like here, on the camera comparisons, there's never any editing going on. But on my Instagram pictures, I always edit those. The biggest thing that shouts at me is that I am pretty blurry looking on the blue Grand XL. And why was that? Well, okay, I was not moving crazy or anything. Like, my sister just took this. I was standing as still as I could. We actually took this picture a couple times and just kept coming out blurry. And I realized that the HDR mode was on the Blue Grand XL. And whenever the HDR mode is on, it's even blurrier because the camera asks you to stay still while it's taking that picture. And we gotta remember, this camera has no optical image stabilization. So yeah, it's gonna be a heck of a lot blurrier if you try to use that HDR mode. Aside from that, I'm not really mad at the colors here. I mean, it's not terrible. I'm always more orange looking on the iPhone, which I don't know if I really like, but I definitely prefer the colors on the iPhone over the Blue Grand XL. And yeah, just like all the other photos, everything is slightly more overexposed. Everything's a little bit closer up. The shadows are not super crushed like in some of the other photos that we saw. And yeah, I mean, if it wasn't blurry, I probably wouldn't hate it that much. Okay, how about this picture here of this street sign? Whoa, big differences. Okay, so I always gravitate towards the sky. The sky on the iPhone looks so much bluer and vibrant and it looks good, but also the shadows are really crushed on the Grand XL. Like that tree on the bottom right just becomes this big patch of darkness with no information at all. So yeah, this photo is it's pretty bad on the Blue Grand XL. The colors took a huge hit here and the shadows are way too crushed. Even like the stop sign, you pretty much lose all the red there. You can still see red here on the iPhone. This next photo is of some canoes. Are these canoes? I think they're canoes. Canoes or kayaks? I think they're kayak. The top one is a kayak and the middle one is a canoe maybe. I don't know. But anyway, taking a look at this photo, the Blue Grand XL almost seems like it has like this like filter over it. Everything looks kind of browner. So yeah, colors definitely better on the iPhone X. Once again, another big difference in this photo is the shadows. Just looking at the bottom left over here, it is just really dark and we can't see anything there. On the iPhone, we see a lot more detail. Another thing I want to mention, it was so hard to take the same exact photo on both of the phones because of the angle of the lens. Like everything was just much more zoomed in on the Blue Grand XL. So that's why we see that tree a lot further down, which I kind of hated. Like I found myself moving back a lot more when taking those pictures. But other than that, I mean, I'm not going to complain much here because overall, if the colors were a little bit better, and if the shadows were handled a little bit better, it'd be a pretty good photo. And it is a good photo. And you know what? It's $100. $100 took that photo. $100 took that photo. Let's take a look at some red roses now. Wow, the difference is really big here again. Jeez, okay. So I've noticed the sky, sometimes the Blue Grand XL, it just likes to overexpose the heck out of that sky. I mean, we can't even see this. The sky is just this big white blob. Like there's no clouds, there's no blue in there. I mean, the flowers just look blurry and dark. Everything's just dull. You can't see much in the shadows again. And I don't know why, like the stuff that should be in focus in the front is just completely blurred out. It almost seems like it kept more of the background in focus than the foreground. And I know that I didn't focus on the background here. So yeah, once again, huge color difference, huge differences in exposure. Like, okay, in the bottom, all the leaves from these roses are just completely like gone. Yeah, I mean, it did pretty bad in this photo. And I'm just gonna quickly show this next picture. It's kind of the same thing as in the roses, where that sky is just this big blob of white. Like, what? Which country club do you wanna go to? The Lake Mohawk Country Club on the iPhone X or the Lake Mohawk Country Club on the Blue Grand XL? Clearly the sign looks better on the iPhone X because of the colors, but just looking at the smaller things in the photos, like everything else, like the dirt in the front is much darker on the Blue Grand XL. The iPhone X is a clear winner. Let's move on. Let's move into lower light pictures now. I'm a little scared for lower light pictures because I'm expecting a lot of grain from the Blue Grand XL, but let's see. I mean, this is not complete low light. This is actually just as the sun was setting, and that's actually not that bad. So in this photo, the sky is really important to me because those colors on the background is like what makes this photo. I kind of just wish I could blend these photos together because I like how the subject, which is a lamp, I like how that looks on the Blue Grand XL, but I love how the background, like the sky, looks on the iPhone X. You do lose some detail in it. Like if you look at the very top of it, you can clearly see more detail on the iPhone X. Overall, the iPhone X's picture is a more pleasing one to look at here for me because it did let more light in with that lower aperture. Moving into much lower light, here's a picture of this pretty creepy looking street alleyway. Like I actually took this picture at midnight and it was actually really creepy. It is so blurry and grainy looking on the Blue Grand XL. This photo just really makes me appreciate low light photos out of the iPhone 10. Again, we're seeing the benefits of having a wider lens. Everything is cropped and much closer in on the Blue Grand XL. I really wasn't expecting much out of the low light photos, so I'm not even gonna be mad about these. Okay, this next one of this fire hydrant is pretty much the same thing as the last one. It's super blurry and grainy. The iPhone's picture is much better exposed. Everything looks just completely washed out on the Blue Grand XL. And we gotta remember the camera specs here, like having no optical image stabilization and also the higher aperture is gonna give you that more blurry, darker photo. But how about the selfie camera? Oh no, I have something in my teeth. It's like the only selfie I took and I have something in my teeth. Oh boy. Let's ignore that little piece of kale chip in my teeth there. Blue Grand XL is giving us a pretty blue looking selfie. On the iPhone 10 we get that much warmer looking selfie. Everything is sharper, we get more detail. I look kind of blurry again in the Blue Grand XL, which I mean some people might prefer that. Maybe you don't want to see all that detail in your face and you kind of want it to blur it out. It does seem like a slightly wider angle. It's just way too blue. Like you're gonna have to turn that temperature way up if you're gonna edit this photo. If it wasn't as blurry, it's a decent looking selfie. What do you think, Gabby? Come over here.
It's not a bad photo. It's called the blue phone. The phone's a little blue. Everything's blue about it.
That's true. Maybe we should know that we're getting the blue selfie out of the Blue Grand XL. Let's look at the next selfie. Stay here because you're in the next one.
Oh.
Let's take a look at the Gabby Crystal selfie.
Oh,
I'm looking rough, man.
You're looking rough.
You look cute.
Oh my god.
You look like sweet little Gabby.
Oh my god.
You look like sweet little Gabby. It's the same. It's kind of the same thing though. It's blue and it's a little blurry.
Once again, it's blue. It's blurry. It's hard to focus with this phone.
Did you find that out when you're taking pictures of me?
Yeah. If you can't tell.
And don't leave the HDR mode on either. I wouldn't post that selfie.
I wouldn't post that, yeah.
I wouldn't post a selfie.
Anywhere.
So if you're all about...
this video.
So if you're all about selfies, maybe the Blue Grand XL is not the phone for you. Wait, why are you leaving?
I thought that's my cue. The selfies aren't the greatest, but it's $100 and you're getting a workable
There's
photo.
a famous line.
Not terrible, not the greatest. It is what it is.
It is what it is. It is what it is. When it comes to video, things are night and day between these two phones. I mean, right off the bat, things are not looking too great for the Blue Grand XL. It is super, super shaky because it has no optical image stabilization, making the iPhone 10 look super smooth. Colors are way better on the iPhone 10, but probably the biggest thing here is how poorly the Blue Grand XL exposes everything. Like highlights and those bright areas are super blown out, and the shadows are super crushed. Like look at this one shot here when I'm pointing to the sky. You can still see everything beautifully on the iPhone 10, where on the Blue Grand XL, it's just really bright areas or really dark areas with no detail at all. So I probably wouldn't recommend getting the Blue Grand XL if you're just gonna use it for video. Overall, I had a lot of fun seeing that side-by-side comparison with the photos. It was just really cool to see what you can get from a really cheap phone put right next to a really expensive phone, especially with the photos that didn't fall too far behind, because there's actually some photos that looked pretty decent, like they weren't too bad. So yes, if you pay more, you're gonna get a better camera, but that does not mean that you have to spend $1,000 to get a good smartphone camera. Like there are so many phones out there and so many phones in between that price range of $100 to $1,000. They're really good. Like the Google Pixel 2, that's around $650. Galaxy S8 is even cheaper. A Galaxy S7 I think is around $400. I mentioned the OnePlus 5T before, around $550. There's so many smartphone cameras out there that you might even consider a lot better than the iPhone 10. But let me know in the comments below what you guys thought of this crazy camera test. Were you guys expecting more out of that $100 phone, or do you think it was gonna do a lot worse? Let me know in the comments. Drop a like if you want to see more videos like this. Don't forget to subscribe. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you later.